You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Good afternoon, everybody. Quick end of the music. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talk's MLB update. Great to have you with us today. The regular season is over. The White Sox have set a record. The Mets in a crazy doubleheader Monday. We'll talk about that and all the wild card results. We've got Division Series ready to start this weekend. We've got a surprise managerial hiring in Cincinnati. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about today. I want to welcome everybody watching today on Facebook, YouTube, our live feeds on both those platforms. We're also live on National Streaming Sports Roku channel. Make sure you get out and download those Roku channels. This show and everything on National Streaming Sports, brought to you in part by BetUs.com. It's a gambling site similar to some of the others you might use, and there's a lot of good money back guarantees and extra money on initial deposits. Go to nessp.info. That's the National Streaming Sports website. You can click the link you can find there, and National Streaming Sports will certainly benefit from that. Bet smart. Don't bet over your head. Bet with it, and also make sure. The work thing got to me. Anyway, make sure you have some fun. Do it for fun. Fun money. You're not going to make a fortune gambling, guys. I do it for fun. Lots of stuff to bet, though. You got Major League Baseball. You can bet winners. You can bet over-unders. You can bet money lines. You can bet run lines. You can bet parlays. Same with college football, professional football. Have some fun with it. Special shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff out there in Pittsburgh, specifically the Sports Corner from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. With Smoke and Jim Frazier, I've been on that show and had a lot of fun with them. Quick shout out to DDH, my boy up above, keeping an eye on us all. And what else? A quick shout out to our groups that support us so well. There's hundreds of them, but the ones I like to point out, at least at the present time. And if you come on the show, you'll certainly get a shout out that day, and I'll give you a shout out in our openings all the time as well. John Gonzalez, of course, at the Sports Authorities. Tremendous stuff John does. I believe a big Met fan. Congrats, John. Know some good Met fans, and I'm sure they're excited about that exciting finish last night. Pete Alonso proving his worth. Greg Rawlings over at America's Pastimes, Love for Baseball. Thank you, Greg, for your support. Flo and the gang at Bottom Line Sports. Great podcast over there. LTS, Let's Talk Sports with Tanner D and the gang. Great content all the way around. Again, I don't broadcast live there, but they certainly still share my content on their Facebook page, which we greatly appreciate. And Ken Krause over at Golf Buds Sports of All Sorts, and many, many others. And a quick shout out to Byron Williams, my guest this morning on 101 with Keith Engle. We had a great chat. Byron, former Giant, New York Giant, New York football Giant. Also spent some time with the Packers and the Eagles and the Colts. Played a lot of time in the CFL. I wrote this down. The World Football League. I'm sorry, that's all I'm going to call it for now. WFAL, I think, is what we want to call it. If I'm wrong, I apologize, Byron. But Brian was on today talking to us about a lot about his career, but also about his activities with the NFL Players Association, and some of the things that they have been doing to help former players, current players, and we talked about some of the safety, the rules, things like that. We talked about a couple specific situations of former players that I've had that have, had issues with the Players Association. Again, former players I've had on the show who have complained a little bit about that. And Byron had some very sensible answers. So watch it and enjoy. Next week, we're hoping to have June Jones on the one-on-one show, former NFL coach, college coach, played quarterback in the NFL. He's out in Hawaii, and we're trying to work out a recorded interview as we speak. So, where does that leave us for today? I don't know where to start. Let's start, I guess, before the regular season ended. Crazy game, and I want to get to a couple. I have a big problem with a couple of things. We had a crazy doubleheader Monday, which probably could have been avoided by Major League Baseball, a little more prescient observation scheduling wise, and because of the hurricane last week, and we wish everybody well that was impacted by that. Some horrific stories, both loss of life and property, and other things. So we wish everybody well on that. But some games were postponed because of it. They probably could have played some games sooner and maybe doubled up before the hurricane to avoid that doubleheader and putting these teams at risk. Didn't turn out to hurt the Mets. At risk of being short of pitchers and whatnot, having to turn around, play doubleheader Monday, and then go out and play in the wild card round on Tuesday. But it worked out. Crazy game for the Mets in game one, thinking they would need to win to avoid facing Chris Sale in the second game, and it turns out he was never going to pitch because of back spasms, and didn't pitch in the postseason at all. Probably the Cy Young Award winner in the National League, never pitched. Guys, the injury bug pops up all the time for these guys who have injury bugs. So the Mets win a crazy game one. They Edwin Diaz implodes in the eighth inning. The Mets come back and take the lead in the top of the ninth on a Lindor home run. And they leave Diaz in, and he gets the save after giving him a scare in the bottom of the ninth. And then the game meant something to the Braves. Actually, the game really meant nothing to either team in the second game then. I think it might have made some difference in the seeding. I'm not sure. But nobody played anybody of any consequence. And the Braves and Mets both went to the playoffs. The Diamondbacks get left home. Diamondbacks make some significant changes to their coaching staff already, as it appears the manager will save his job, Torey Lovello, but the pitching coach, assistant pitching coach, the bullpen coach, anything to do with pitching, gone. We'll talk more about some of those situations later. That brings us to the wild card games. And I'll talk about the Mets specifically first. And who we got here? We got anybody with us yet today? Well, quiet crowds today. Must be a beautiful day around the country. We'll talk about the Mets first. They win game one. They win game one. I believe they won game one. No, they must have. They won the series. Knucklehead. And they're leading game two. Had the game pretty much in hand. And the pitching decisions, this is what bugs me about Major League Baseball. How do you decide? You bring in your seventh inning guy, 1, 2, 3 down. Eighth inning guy, 1, 2, 3 down. But without any sense or feel for the game, just the script in front of you, as I keep pointing out to you guys week after week, we say they can't pitch anymore, no matter how taxing the innings were on their arms or non-taxing. Either one of those guys could have pitched another inning, and maybe the Mets don't lose that game in the ninth inning. Now it all works out because the Mets have an exciting game yesterday. Trail 2-0 pretty much the entire game. Bats are dead. And in the ninth inning, they come alive with 4 runs, including a big home run from Pete Alonso. And will that impact Pete Alonso's, the Mets, I guess, and Pete Alonso's negotiations? I have never been the biggest Pete Alonso fan, quite frankly. He's a little bit better fielder, but he's basically Dave Kingman to me. He came up big here, and those things matter. The teams that were hot at the end of the regular season, the Mets, I guess we could still say that about. The Tigers, definitely the hottest team in baseball, and they sweep the Orioles right out of the playoffs, right? Let's get to the bracket here. They don't reseed, by the way. I find it very interesting we don't reseed. I'm sorry, they swept the Astros out of the playoffs. So they'll play the Guardians here in the next round, which we'll talk about in a second. The wild card Royals beat the wild card Orioles in 2 games. The Padres sweep the Braves in 2 games. The Mets go with 3 games. They go the distance, but they beat the Brewers. They get all those games on the road, by the way. So 3 teams with significant you can't make it any harder on the wild card teams than making them go on the road and play 3 games. The Royals sweep, the Tigers sweep, the Mets sweep, or the Mets win. And the only team that held serve was the Padres. Are we live on Facebook right now? Does anybody know? Sure looks that way. Maybe not. Hold on. I'm going to check something out here. Just for giggles. For some reason, I'm not sure we've gone live. Hope we have. There we are. Just wanted to make sure we're live, and we are. All right. What do you want to get into here today? If we have a small crowd, we'll have a small show. I can guarantee you that. But we got a lot to talk about. Tigers red hot. The Royals, on the other hand, kind of whimpered into the postseason, but played great in their 2 games against the Astros. The Astros finished now with 7 consecutive postseason losses at home. They're going to get the Guardians. The Yankees and Royals going back. We haven't played them in gosh, I don't remember the last time we played them in the playoffs. I want to say 40 years ago. But the Yankees were consistent. The Yankees and Royals had consistent matchups in the late 70s into the 80s. Why is my voice doing that, by the way? Some great series. I would say all of those series, 76, 77, 78, all 5-game series, all won by the Yankees. The Royals get some revenge in 1980. George Brett just started owning Goose Gossage, by the way. Big home run, and Dick Hauser gets fired after winning 100 plus games. But they're gonna match up. So very interesting matchups there. Dodgers and Padres, who are battling to the last weekend almost, for the division crown, will face off in one of the NLDSs. And the Mets and Phillies, who are bitter rivals, will face off in the other matchup. The red hot Mets. I got to tell you something. We talked a little bit on the Mac and Jack show this morning about momentum. Momentum, Jim Palmer always used to say momentum's as good as the next day's starting pitcher. But then there's momentum. There's momentum, and then there's momentum. When you're winning games the way the Mets are winning games, you feel like you're never out of the game. And I think there's some downside for the division winners who had the byes, the Yankees, the team formerly known as the Indians. Some news about their former manager that we'll get into in a little bit. The Phillies and the Dodgers. You've had to sit around for nearly a week. Baseball players are not used to sitting around for nearly a week. There's some upside. You get some injuries cleared up. You get your pitching rotations in order. But, sitting around for a week sometimes can be detrimental. They get off to slow starts. We saw last year. I think 3 of the 4 teams that had byes went out in this division round. So we'll see what it'll take. I'll tell you who I like in these series. Excuse me. I definitely like the Yankees. And I know that some of you, Danny Fuller, if you're with us, get on me, because, I get on my Yankees. But listen, I'm a tough fan. I'm a critic. When I see something wrong, I point it out. The Yankees should win this series. I think the Royals have have a definite advantage in the bullpen, but I think the Yankees, and defensively, by the way, I think the Yankees have better bats. Obviously, the Royals don't have anybody to match up with Judge and Soto. The Yankees have done a pretty good job of protecting Soto with Stanton playing better here near the end of the season. Sorry, just keep an eye on work again. So he's played well. Austin Wells has played well in that spot when he's been there. Yankees, if the Yankees don't have some serious breakdown of fundamental baseball, which happens, the Yankees should win this series. A little flawed defensively, especially if Rizzo's not going to play first base. We're going to be deficient there. We know Glaber's issues at second base, as well as Jazz Chisholm has played. He's not, Brooks Robinson or Greg Nettles at third base. Dominguez, if he's going to play left field, has had some struggles defensively late in the season. Not sure if he'll play anyway because he didn't set the world on fire. I think the Yankees waited a little too long to bring him back up. And Judge, by the way, in center field, I've said all along, is not the ideal situation. So, he's he's one of the top defensive right fielders in baseball. He's one of the ranked last in any metric you can look at, basically, as a center fielder. And I don't like to get involved in those advanced metrics, but tells whatever story it tells. So, as long as the Yankees can get some decent starting pitching and not have major breakdowns in fundamental baseball, they should get by the Royals, I think. The Guardians, who didn't play great baseball the second half of the season, get the Tigers, both division rivals. The Tigers looked like they were out of this. People calling for A.J. Hinch's head back in July. They're the hottest team in baseball right now. They're a fun story. They've outscored the Guardians in their head-to-head matchups this year. Tariq Skubal will probably start 2 games, that I would say, which gives, to me, 2 automatic wins for the Tigers. He's a Cy Young Award winner in the American League, and I think he should match up pretty well with the Guardians. I hate myself. The Indians in this matchup. The lineups, I'm not really sure. Very interesting stat the other day when they knocked Josh Hader around against the Astros. He's making $19 million this year, and the entire roster, the wild card roster for the Tigers, is about $18 million. Now, that doesn't factor in some other things. Their total payroll is like $106 million. So, but I think it's very interesting to see that stat. Home field could come into play, but the Tigers are hot. I'm going to stay with a hot team here and take the Tigers in 5. I'm going to take the 4, by the way. We move on to the National League. The Padres and Dodgers pretty evenly matched up this year. I'm not sure who's pitching for the who's going to pitch for the Dodgers, starting pitchers, besides Yamamoto and Flaherty. Kershaw says he might be able to pitch. No word on him being activated yet. Padres, maybe the second hottest team in baseball behind the Tigers. Mets stumbled a little bit the last week or so, or they would have been. They're still on that list. The Dodgers lineup just doesn't scare me. Freddie Freeman off a little bit. Muncy still trying to fight his way back after missing a lot of time. Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts, but I just see a lot of holes in that lineup that aren't so good. This season basically is win or go home for some of the Dodgers. They may bust this up, including the manager, Dave Roberts. Sorry, I'm shrinking in my seat here. The incredible shrinking podcaster. So I'm going to take just because I don't want to see Dave Rogers get fired. What a good job by Schlick, by the way, for the Padres. I'm going to take the Dodgers in 5. And in the Met-Philly series, I like the Philly, but the Mets' karma right now is really good. Problem is, Zach Wheeler's the best pitcher remaining in the NL, probably, since Sale is out, missed all the playoffs. Listen, all the goodwill is Sale. I thought he was done. All the goodwill that he built up through the course of the year, Red Sox fans and White Sox fans, you saw plenty of the Chris Sale you saw the last 2 weeks, and not even showing up for the playoffs. I know your body betrays you. It's not necessarily his fault. But it's why you can't count on a guy like Chris Sale. He's going to win the National League Cy Young Award. But he breaks down at the most inopportune times for these teams. The Phillies have, I think, a pretty significant pitching advantage on the Mets, in my mind, starting and relieving. I think their lineup is better. I think they're better managed. I like the Mets manager. He came from the Yankees. 3. But so did Rob Thompson. Rob Thompson's one of my favorites. I'm going to take the Phillies to win this one in 5. Probably some crazy, wacky 9th inning in Game 5. The Phillies win this series. So it's going to be some good baseball. Let me fill you in on when they're playing here. This is all these games are tomorrow, and then you'll get 2 games Sunday and 2 games Monday. But tomorrow will be Detroit at Cleveland at 1:00. Undecided for Detroit, who's done pretty well for this year for the Detroit Tigers. Every time I've seen undecided, they won against Tanner Beebe for the Mets at Philadelphia at 4:08. Mets are undecided versus Zach Wheeler. Kansas City at the Yankees. It'll be Michael Wacha against Garrett Cole. There's a huge advantage in Game 1 there for the Yankees, as far as I'm concerned. Big money line there, already 210, minus 210. So to win $100, you got to lay 210. That's better than 2-1 odds. And San Diego will go to Los Angeles. Dylan Cease against Yamamoto. On Sunday, the Mets and Philadelphia do not have pitchers set up. San Diego, Los Angeles, it will be Yu Darvish against Jack Flaherty. And from on Monday in the American League, we get the Detroit at Cleveland, no matchup scheduled. Kansas City and New York, Cole Reagans against Carlos Rondon. Not as big as an advantage as I would like to see. Then there's no other pitchers obviously announced for anything further in those series. So exciting time, man. College football in full swing. You saw the college football huddle. I wasn't able to do it live Wednesday night at 7, so we did it yesterday on the fly, yesterday afternoon, and it'll replay tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, so check that out. We got NFL reaching its 2nd month. Lots of big upsets, lots of surprises, lots of disappointments. NBA and NHL is getting started here soon. Big trade for the Knicks. And Major League Baseball's in the middle of their playoffs. Big surprise today, by the way. Terry Francona would appear to be, let me just make sure there's been no change here since I did this. Let me update this here. It's a done deal on a 3-year deal. Terry Francona returns, will manage the Reds. Great deal for the Reds. Little surprised Terry Francona's coming back due to I'm a little surprised that we don't have any we haven't got any commenters today, but it's a little odd for the Wednesday or this. I'm sorry, what day is it? The Friday afternoon show. Maybe I'm doing the show at the wrong time. We'll see. Hopefully we don't get a late crowd because I can't stay too much past 4:00, or who knows if I'll even still be here. But we'll see what goes on there. Anyway, Terry Francona returns, I should say. I was a little surprised he stayed this last year in Cleveland. due to health issues. He'd miss a boatload of games here and there. But he returns to manage a very talented, if underachieving, Reds team in 2025. So we'll see how that goes. As far as the playoffs go, the Dodgers and the Yankees are the title favorites right now, but the sports books seem to be waver. Sorry. Seem to wavering on, or being concerned, I should say, about the Tigers looming out there. So hot. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. What else is going on here? I see some Tamayoko Sugana is heading to Major League Baseball after his Japanese career. He's the most successful pitcher of his generation, who have spent his entire career in the Nippon professional baseball. He's coming to MLB next year as a free agent. He'll be 35 years old next week. Buyer beware here. But this was a big season for him. He had 1.67 ERA over 24 starts for the champion Yomiuri Giants. So he's won the equivalent of the Cy Young Award over there twice. He's been an MVP a couple of times. 35 years old, guys. Beware. All these other guys that have come over here have been much younger than this, for the most part. The Twins, I think myself, the Rocco Baldelli may be in trouble, especially after Thad Levine is out as a Twins general manager after 8 years. The Twins are a big collapse here to fall out of the playoffs. They got off to a horrendous start. And finished 6-18 to finish out of the playoffs. And I believe they started the season around that mark. So anyway, he's out, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rocco Baldelli follows him out the door, although I like Rocco. We talked about Terry Francona, bit of a surprise. I think a good hire, though. Who else is in trouble? We got two openings. The White Sox, I don't think Grady Sizemore is getting that job full time. And I'm not sure who wants it. It's going to be a big rebuild, I think, for the White Sox. And we know the Miami opening is there. Skip Schumacher has, I guess they've mutually decided that Skip Schumacher will not be back. Schumacher being mentioned for a couple of openings. The Braves being one of them. Who's the other one? Hang on. Who was the other? See if I can look here and see. Man, I can't remember now. Oh, the Braves. I know. I just said the Braves, right? Blah. Maybe the Cardinals. Played with the Cardinals. Their position could come open. But who else is going to be available? I just mentioned the Braves. There's been a lot of rumors about Schichter leaving, kicking himself upstairs, or with a combination of the team doing it or him doing it. Some of those rumors say it'll be next year. But do you really want a lame duck manager? So he could be teetering. Well, Deli, we already talked about. I think Hyde, with the Baltimore's failings the last 2 years in the playoffs, as well as they've played during the regular season, they faded badly down the stretch. They had injuries, but Hyde could be in trouble. Mark Kotsay in Oakland. I don't know who's going to take the jobs, the Sacramento Oakland A's. But Mark Kotsay could be teetering. Dan Wilson, who they brought in to, spark the Mariners, didn't really work. Played pretty much 500, I would say, under Wilson. He could be in trouble. Bud Black, Shelton. Bruce Bochy. I'm not so sure. Bruce Bochy bears watching, by the way. He's not a young guy. He went through a very trying season this year. But maybe he doesn't want to end it on a downer like this has been for him and his team. Why is my face so white today? Is it just black top? There we go. Be interesting to see what happens, I think. So happy. Blue Jays, by the way, Schneider's another guy who might need to be concerned, right? I would say Marmol in St. Louis needs to be concerned. We could see a huge turnover in managers. And I need to pivot because I should have done this at the top of the show. Pete Rose passed away the other night at 83 years old, I want to say. All-time hit leader, banned from baseball for betting on the game back in 89 by Bart Giamatti, upheld by every commissioner since. There was a lot of talk, and Pete felt this, that they would not let him in until he was dead. And I think it would be hypocritical to put him in now. He needs to be there. But by the way, keep in mind, Major League Baseball and the Hall of Fame have nothing to do with one another, except that the Hall of Fame has a rule that nobody that's on the MLB restricted list, if you will, can be on the ballot to enter the Hall of Fame or be voted on to be in the Hall of Fame. Pete never appeared on the ballot, so I'm not really sure. And he's been retired so long, I'm sure he would go right to the Veterans Committee. But maybe he gets on the ballot because he was never allowed on the ballot in the first place. And to me, that's how it ought to happen. I think Pete Rose should go on the ballot, and I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. He should have been there before he died. What he did was stupid. What he did hurt baseball a lot more than Pete Rose ever wanted to admit it did. But you can't have a Hall of Fame without Pete Rose. I know some of the Hall of Famers don't want him. I saw Johnny Bench, who I know has said he didn't want him in. Joe Morgan, before he passed away, said he didn't want him in. I saw Johnny Bench interviewed by Dan Patrick the other day saying that, now he thinks he belongs in. I mean, does some of these people and the Hall of Fame just want to punish Pete Rose so he couldn't get in and enjoy it while he was alive? Now, of course, Pete would have turned that into a money-making endeavor for himself, inevitably, but very polarizing figure. I mean, I've had this, and again, it's not a very popular opinion necessarily. That I think Rose, along with the steroids guys, all belong in. And you tell their stories, warts and all. Shoeless Joe Jackson belongs in the Hall of Fame. And don't try to separate I saw guys trying to separate. In fact, might have been Johnny Bench. No, I don't think it was Johnny Bench. I think it was some guys in some chat rooms mentioning that they thought the steroid users were worse than Pete because they affected the game on the field. Well, so did Pete Rose. They say Pete's not as bad as Shoeless Joe Jackson because he was playing in the games and he affected the outcome of the games because they threw the games. Pete wasn't throwing the games. He was betting on his own team. Look at, again, I believe Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. And I'll continue to say that until somebody convinces me otherwise, and we all know how hard it is to change my mind. But Pete Rose affected the game on the field as much as any of those other guys we're talking about. Every decision that he made affected the outcome of the game. Pitching changes, hit and runs, player replacements, injuries. He affected what happened on the field. If he might save a guy for the next night because he knew a bet was lost, and I'll save the guy for tomorrow. You don't think that that's how Pete thought? I know Pete wanted to win every game, and he didn't bet against his team. I totally 100% believe that. But there are other factors than just flagrantly betting against your team that come into play. And again, anybody coming in late, I want Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. I've said this for years. But don't tell me he didn't affect the game on the field, because he had tremendous effect on the game on the field, including upcoming games, with every decision that he made in each and every game. He could make decisions today all out because I got a bunch of money on the Reds today and I blow out my bullpen. I do everything. I play guys that are maybe marginally hurt and they get hurt more. That affects the team's chances for weeks, baby. So all of Pete Rose's decisions affected the game on the field. Not just the steroids guys, not just shoeless Joe Jackson and that crowd. So, in any event, very sad. Rest in peace, Pete. Our condolences to his family. You can say what you want about Pete Rose, but he's one of the great characters in baseball history, one of the great players. Multiple batting championships, an MVP, an all-star year in and year out. Affected helped two teams, if you want to say, get over the top and win World Series. He was with the Reds for a long time before they won, but he's integral in them winning back-to-back World Series in 75 and 76 and getting to, 70, 72. 72, they got 73, they got the championship game. 75, 76. So 4 out of 6 years they were in the World Series. Only won 2, they could have won others. But then he goes to Philadelphia and he takes a team loaded with talent who hadn't been able to get out of the playoffs. And he helps guys like Mike Schmidt really learn what it took to be a winner. Pete Rose has got to be one of the most polarizing figures ever to put on a Major League Baseball uniform, maybe a sports uniform in general. He had his good qualities, hustle, played hard, played to win all the time. Then he had his dark side, the gambling side, possible probably a womanizer, and some other allegations that we won't get into on this show. I'm not saying he's a saint. I'm saying he's one of the best baseball players of all time. He's the all-time hit leader, and that counts for something. If you're going to have a Hall of Fame, people like that have to be in it. It's not the Hall of Integrity. Tell his story and put him in. Rest in peace, Pete. What else? Guys aren't helping me out today. Got to carry the show on my own. How about that? I can do it. Oh, the Mets, by the way, are still discussing potentially activating Senga for the NLDS. I don't know whether he would start or pitch out of the bullpen. Yeah, he would likely pitch out of the bullpen, pitch an inning or two. But with the Mets, boy, with what the Mets have had to do this week and the pitchers they've had to go through since Monday, they may need that arm. Bobby Witt. I want to talk about Bobby Witt for a second. Great series he had against the Orioles. And again, these numbers and these games don't count at all in the MVP voting. But I think Bobby Witt, the last month of the season, may have closed the gap on Aaron Judge. I think Judge will win, but I think Witt could come in a close second. Michael King, the ex-Yankee who got traded for Juan Soto, one of the guys traded for Juan Soto. And Higgy, the catcher, had a big home run. But Michael King was lights out in his start against the Braves. 12 strikeouts. Pitched very, very well. Who else? Any other big news here? Wow. The Marlins, by the way, continue to prove why they're not a Major League Baseball organization. We just talked about some guys getting let go by the Diamondbacks. Torey Lovello turning over his entire pitching coach staff. pitching coach Brett Strom, his assistant Carlson, I believe was his name, and the bullpen coach all let go. The Marlins, I think it's just a cost-saving endeavor. They turn over 70 staffers. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Looking for some more news to chat about with you guys. Thought we'd have some good commentary about Pete Rose today in the playoffs, and we've had a very quiet crowd. Hope everybody's doing okay today, and there's no major issues. Should check my Facebook to see if there's any issues. I should have done this before. Apologize for not doing that. But I do not see anything. Anyway, good stuff. God bless Pete Rose. Good luck to to all the teams in the division series. We're going to cut a little short today since we're a little short on commentary. So I've kind of said my bit here for 40 minutes. And unless somebody pops in here shortly, we're going to get ready to wrap it up. Couple of programming notes. We'll be on Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness. We'll cover we'll talk about all the baseball news. We'll talk about Pete Rose, I'm sure. We'll talk about the Mets' interesting week, and hopefully that interesting for them. Hopefully that interesting week continues. We'll talk about all these division series, Tigers and Indians. Sorry, Guardians fans. Mets and Phillies, KC and the Yankees, San Diego and LA. Some great matchups here. We'll talk more about Terry Francona. We'll talk college football. We'll talk pro football. We'll talk it all on the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Before that, I'll do my regular Sunday stint. We got a comment here. Who's here? It's Chris F. Grave. Is this the last we've seen of Jose Abreu? Well, until he goes. Probably. Jose Abreu looked washed up, right? To me this year. Houston had to dump him. They could have used that bat greatly. Chris. I'm sure he'll go back to the Mexican League and tear it up. Just kidding you, buddy. He'll probably be one of the guys that we talk about all next summer on Fridays about his stats in either the Mexican League or some independent league. He should take his money and go home. Where's he from? I think he's Cuban, right? Came here late, had a good career. A good late, I don't want to say late in life. I don't even want to say I'm late in life. But yes, I'm going to say Abreu is all done. We just talked about Pete Rose a little bit too, Chris, and I gave my opinion that it's going to be kind of sad because I do believe Pete Rose will get into the Hall of Fame posthumously. I think that's what the Lords of Baseball wanted all along, was for Pete to pass away, and now they'll let him in. And I'll continue to say what I've said forever. Pete Rose belonged in the Hall of Fame before. You can't have a Hall of Fame without Pete Rose, one of the greatest players in history. Certainly not the best person in the history of baseball, but this isn't, the Hall of Integrity. Put him in there, tell the story. Don't tell me that, steroid users are better or worse than what Pete Rose did. Don't tell me that Shoeless Joe Jackson was better or worse than what Pete Rose did. It was all bad. All bad. But Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame, and so does his plaque, and put on the plaque everything he did, good and bad. With that, rest in peace, Pete. The Reds, we need to see a crackdown on the hitting coach. You're going to see a whole new coaching staff there, I'm pretty sure, Chris, because Terry Francona was hired today to manage that team, and I'm pretty sure you'll see an entirely new coaching staff probably come in there to work with Terry Francona. A little surprised about that with Terry Francona's health issues. Scott Kobe pops in, who knows Terry Francona very well, or at least of his exploits with the Red Sox, where he did very well. Hello, Scott. I am awesome. Very disappointed in the Brewers and Orioles. I think the same thing happened last year, Scott, if I'm not mistaken. 3 Well, I shouldn't say that. I was talking about the division round. Every higher seed except the Padres went out. Every better seed except the Padres went out. 3 teams with 3 home games. You can't get a bigger home field advantage than that. 2 of them get swept, and one of them goes out in 3 games after leading 2-0 going into the 9th inning. I'd have bet. I shouldn't say I bet my life on anything, but to use that phrase, I'd have bet my life Delvin Williams just shuts that Met team down in the 9th inning. But he takes his lumps, and he takes full accountability for it. Big home run by Pete Alonso. Pitching is the key. Well, hitting might be the key too, Carlos. Good to see the Mad New Yorker with us. Pitching is the key. Pitching, defense, and timely hitting still wins, but you got to score runs. It doesn't matter. The Mets are a perfect example. They were ready to lose that game. Their pitching kept them in the game. Don't disagree. And the reason I like Detroit over Cleveland is pitching and defense. The reason I like the Yankees over the Royals is I think a better starting staff. I don't think a better bullpen. The reason I like the Phillies over the Mets, better starting pitching, better relief pitching. Now, the Mets, though, are on a kind of streak that really carries you a long ways. It's not just that they're winning games and momentum. I talked about this morning on Mac and Jack. It's not just momentum. It's the way they're winning. You win like that a couple times in a week, or at least 2 times in a week, and you start to think you can't lose. You're always in a game. Now you guys are here. Spent 45 minutes talking to myself. Everyone, 70 guys. I just mentioned, I think, before you come in, Chris. Every single guy, the coaching staff, training staff, people in the front office, 70 staffers fired by the Marlins. The Marlins shouldn't even be in the major leagues. We talk about the White Sox and the Rockies. Those teams are model franchises compared to what the Marlins do down there. Marlins we're putting together a good team under the woman GM. I can't remember her name, Enge, or I think it's Enge. Skip Schumacher done a great job. Got into the playoffs last year, snuck in, if you will, but still, and they just don't do anything to improve it. In fact, they make it worse. How about firing yourselves? How about selling a team to somebody who cares about winning? How about that? Now you guys got me riled up. You come in late, you get me riled up. Which higher seed in the American League is more vulnerable, Yankees or the Guardians? I think the Guardians, Scott, I think they're both vulnerable for different reasons. I'm glad the Yankees didn't get the Tigers. The Tigers are the hottest team in baseball the last 55 games. They've been tremendous. They're like 30 games over 500 in the last 45 or something. And I think the Guardians had not played well. Sorry, the team formerly known as the Indians. I think they're more vulnerable. They hadn't played well down the stretch. I'm not crazy about their pitching staff. I'm not crazy about a lot of the players in their lineup. Kwan has come back to earth. I love Jose Ramirez, but he has not played up to his standard, I don't think, this year. So I think I would say the Indians in the American League. Although the Yankees, again, the defensive alignment's going to be very, very shaky. You worry about the pitching behind Cole. But I think the Yankees, assuming the bats don't go to sleep, and we've seen it before, by the way, and they don't collapse fundamentally, I think the Yankees win. As I said at the top and during the middle of the show, I like Detroit, I like the Yankees, I like the Phillies, and I like L.A. Not sure why I like L.A., but I like L.A. Actually, I would probably say you may be right, but I think the Tigers may have surpassed that, by the way, the last couple of weeks of the season. MLB records since June. I'm gonna say, Carlos, that it's since June 1. Here we go. I'm wrong. Whoops, that's not right. That's strikeouts. Who the hell cares about that? Stat Muse. You're right. Mets are 65-40. Tigers only 58-47. But I will tell you, in the last 45 games, no team's been hotter than the Tigers. The Tigers and the Mets come into these series with the most momentum. The Royals were stumbling until they went into the Orioles, who were also stumbling, and swept them. I put on the Tigers and bet on the Tigers and the Padres to make it to the World Series. Serious money plus. It's a good wager. Be a redo of the 1984 World Series where the Tigers just dismantled the Padres. Here's Rick Sherlock. Where's everybody been? You guys all together in a bar somewhere? Nobody was here for 40 minutes and you guys all show up at the same time. Is this an intervention of some kind? Agreed about Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. I'm trying to agree with your take on the steroid guys. I still think it enhanced their performance and their stats. I didn't say it didn't. Don't misunderstand what I said. At least what I said today. It definitely enhanced their performance and their stats. I never said it didn't. But I also don't know who did and who didn't use. We don't know everybody. The guys who have been banned from the Hall of Fame are not the only guys using steroids. My guess is 75% of the league was using steroids. That'd be my guess, based on the things that I've read and heard. And what I was saying during this show, Rick, about I don't remember where I heard the comment after Pete Rose passed that the steroid guys were worse than Pete Rose because they affected the play on the field. They're absolutely right, 100%. But so did Pete. And that Pete wasn't as bad as the Black Sox, Joe Jackson and Shoeless Joe Jackson and that crowd, because they threw the games. Pete never threw any games, but Pete did affect the play in the field. Please, I'm not trying to sugarcoat that Pete Rose, didn't do something that hurt the game immensely. He did. Doesn't mean he shouldn't be in a Hall of Fame. What he did affected the play on the game. Every move he made in a game affected a game the next day or down the road. If he was playing all in to win a game that night because he needed to, so people weren't breaking his legs, that would affect what happened the next day and the games after. If he just gave up on a game because I'll try to get my money back tomorrow and I'll save so-and-so for tomorrow, that affected the play in the field. So anybody, and I don't understand that line of thinking that what Pete Rose did was, to me, all three are bad. All three are bad, really bad for baseball, all of them. I'm talking about guys who belong in the Hall of Fame, and we tell what their stories are, warts and all. Always. I'll always take that. We're talking about the Mets probably consistency clutch. Again, you come back, they're never out of games. It's fun to watch. I don't trust Rendon. No, he's pitching game 2. I don't trust him at all. I don't probably trust anybody. I try Clark Schmidt. I might like a little bit in game. I hope he'll pitch game 3, and then we'll get Stroman in game 4 or vice versa. Might depend on matchups. But I do like the Yankees. Do I trust Rendon? No. Listen, I'm under no illusions that the Yankees, just like every other game for the last 162 in the last 5 or 6 years, are going to have to out-hit these teams to win. And if they run into elite pitchers, if they get shut down, they'll lose. I just need to see better fundamental baseball. Let's bother Keith Friday Club. It's every day, Carlos. Don't worry about that. We're all in a function room. It's all. Come on. You guys are killing me. Oh, book club. I don't think I didn't do my reading this week, Scott. Bard Veral's Cub is too late. I'm only kidding. I think it's just weird that nobody was here and then you guys all show up and I swear to God, every one of you guys popped in within about 20 seconds of each other. So thank you. Listen, you guys know how much I appreciate you. And there are days people don't show up, and I get that. And I've learned to talk a lot and carry those moments along. Tony Gwynn, I'm assuming that's Tony Gwynn Jr. Yeah, thank you. God bless Tony Gwynn. I wish he was still with us. He was a great hitter, man. And a character, too. There's a guy, if I need a base hit, go shift on Tony Gwynn, by the way. Put these rules in for Tony Gwynn. He's going to hit about 500. Catcher in the Rye, a great movie. Holden Caulfield's one of the great characters in literary history, Scott. Welcome to the Itch Club, Carlos. Not just Friday. That's right. We got a race. Here we are hitting the month of October. So we're in the stretch run. The last quarter of the year. We've got a very close race for the Itch of the Year between, Billy Pulver he made it clear the other day that he's still around and may try to make a late push. But the replacements have been Rick Sherlock, who's done a very, very good job, especially with his quitter comments. Kenny Gifford. So we got two Perthites. And Danny Fuller, a late entry. Chris Fgrave brought Danny along with him. And Danny Fuller is making a late run at that Itch Award. And it's going to be a very close race, and it's not too late for others to get in there. I was interviewing. So talking to myself is one of my favorite pastimes, by the way. My wife will tell you, because I often do it. Sometimes I'll even have two microphones, Scott, and I'll just change them over. It looks a little weird, but as long as we have fun, we don't care. Tony, what the hell's that? Tony who? What else did I mention? You guys might be interested in before I do wrap it up here today. I can't go too late. I got a couple work things I got to finish up here as I watch comments get popped into the Teams chat. It's going to be an exciting playoff race. Oops, sorry, Chris. I'm going to go back to what he had here. Don't have to be an Itch a Club award. I itch a lot anyway. So what's Chris got? How many sluggers do we have that choke up on two strikes? Anthony Rizzo's definitely one. Doesn't work for Joey Gallo, by the way. Joey Gallo might as well just stay down the end of the bat because it doesn't help him even a little bit. Pete Rose would have been a great hitting coach. You know that? Because I saw Pete interviewed once, and he's like, there's only a couple of things. People change your stance. He said they change their stance. They change their they try to change their what am I getting at? The way they hold the bat. He says there's only like four things you need to do. You go closer to the pitcher, or further up in the box, back in the box, in on the box, out on the box. That's it. That was all of Pete Rose's corrections when he was hitting. That's it. That's all the. It's so simple, and he's absolutely right. Why would you change anything else? If you're a successful hitter, I never understood Cal Ripken would change his stance every 2 weeks. He's a great player, don't get me wrong. But Pete Rose is right. All these guys who have great swings and have got them to the major leagues, and they're making all these little tweaks to their approach. And he says all you got to do is either move up in the box, back in the box, in the box, or further away from the plate. Closer to the plate, further away. That's it. That's all he ever did when he adjusted. And that's pretty funny. Joey Gallo choking up. He better come up with a different approach, right? I'm commissioner for a day. Just one? Well, I can tell you one. The ghost runner is going away. If I only get one, that's it. Ghost runner goes away. Stupidest rule ever implemented ever. But there's certainly others. I need more than if I got a whole day. I can only make one change. I got a whole day, Scott. Let me put the game right. Let me send it back to 1978. Football and baseball, they don't know what they want, right? Pitching organizations have spent a generation now basically screwing up pitchers and tell them to pitch less strain in the arm. They can only throw 90 pitches. They can only do blah, 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 blah. Now, when people are screaming that pitchers don't pitch enough innings, they say, well, we'll force pitchers to pitch more innings. We'll put a rules in so they have to pitch. Stop. If I can only change one thing, here's what I might do then. Change it up. If I'm commissioner for one day, Scott, I fire everybody in Major League Baseball and start all over. How about that? Everybody in any position of authority in Major League Baseball, including every organization, I ban them all from baseball for life. Then I can get guys in there that will fix the game. Everybody hates Bob Costas. I have no idea why. You know what? I love Bob Costas because he has the same mindset I have about the game of baseball. They love the game of baseball and they want it back. And I want it back. So anybody watch Bobby Witt bust it to first base at a potential double play the other day against the Orioles? Kind of one hand the number of guys that do that today. Give me the game back you stole away from me. You guys hate Bob Costas? I'm not saying you guys. I'm reading all these comments about because he's going to do I think he's doing the Yankee series. And I'm really happy. But every single comment says Bob Costas needs to shut up. Well, then I guess I need to shut up, and I will when you guys tell me to. But Bob Costas is the conscious of baseball in my mind. The conscious of baseball. Everybody else likes what we see today. The bat flipping, the running doubles into singles and the triples into doubles. You guys did a great job. Fired me up. Show's over. Yeah, A-Rod. They did. Listen, and it's been a while since Pete's been on Fox, but Pete was very entertaining on Fox. A-Rod's a complete phony, and I got nothing good to say about A-Rod. Watch Gary McKillop's, my interview with Gary McKillop's. He said really the toughest interview he ever did was with A-Rod because he's the most disingenuous person he'd ever met, basically. And I don't mean to be putting words in your mouth, Gary, if I am, because I have strong feelings. I don't think Gary went quite so far as to say that, but I may have added that at the end of Gary's comments. He's the most disingenuous person I've ever seen in sports. 3 changes. All right, now we're talking. Ghost runner. These stupid rules about throwing over to first base and the size of the bases. I'm going to count that as just 1. And put the shift back in. Didn't have any significant impact at all. Doing away with the shift. None. Put the shift back in and then teach hitters how to hit exactly the way they should. And don't tell me pitchers are too good, because they're not. Would you hire everyone in the chat as your baseball cabinet? Potentially. I'm not so sure about Carlos. No offense, Carlos. I'm just kidding. I think everybody here would have potentially be able to get in the game and be on that cabinet. Go Expo. Ron Panetta. Thanks for joining us, Ron. I'm sending the game back to 1978, so the Expos are back, and you're in, buddy. Yeah, don't give me my 3 changes now, Scott. I'm sticking with my original one. 1 change. Firing everybody involved in Major League Baseball and management and in the commissioner's office, in the management and organizations of every team in baseball. And we're going to set it back to 1978, and the Expos are going to be back. By the way, Paul and Ron, thanks for coming in. I'm going to assume you're an Expos fan. Are you from Montreal, by the way? There's a lot of talk about Montreal getting a team back. They need a stadium. They never had a stadium. They played in Jerry Park, quaint, but not a Major League Baseball stadium. Then they played in the Olympic Stadium, which was built for the 76 Olympics, and it was a horrible place to watch a game. Went there many times. Awful. So thanks for popping in, Ron. Go Expos. What you got here? Hope you'll come back. If you're not liking, following the show, please do so, Ron, and send it to your friends. We talk a lot. Listen, I'd love the Expos. Those fans supported that team. Ron, I just got, and I can't tell by your photo, you're probably younger than me, but I read a great baseball book about the 73 baseball season, how influential it was in sports at the time. And that was the first time the Expos really were in contention for the postseason, 1973. They did end up finishing, they might have finished last, I'm not sure. But there were every team in the Eastern Division of the National League, was in contention through the end of the season, until last weekend, basically. Okay, where was I? Let me finish up Ron's comments here. So he said, thank you. You're welcome. Yes, he's an Expos fan. Grew up in Montreal. Nice. Ron's with me. Bring it back. I see Ron's going to get all the comments now. You're older than you look? Older than me or older than you look? And now you're going to have to tell me because I turned 64 here last month. So I'm an old man. All right. Oh, now I'll get to some other comments. I guess we're going to go late. We're over now by 4. Listen, late. You guys late better than never. I love you guys a lot. Where are you, Chris? I got, we've gone through a revolution in technology. It's moved up on us way too fast, though. It's created shorter attention spans. You bet your butt there, man. It's my own as well. I don't try to think of anything. I'm watching a movie and I go, who's that actor? What else do we see him in? And all of a sudden I'm on my phone in like 3 seconds instead of thinking about it. And then you just saw how quickly I got away from your comment, Chris. So there you go. I got to take my Ritalin before the show. In sports, and now it's geared to younger people and boom, pow. Yeah, I agree. 100%. It's the what do I call it? It's the video game ESPN effect. The two of those things have really hurt sports a lot. They should piss off fans and give the playoffs to Apple TV. That would be the worst thing ever, man. I think that's what I would do too. I would kind of, I'm going to put it in one place and let them give me as much money as they can. And I'm going to take it away from the people who don't do a good job producing games. Apple TV does a horrible job producing games. Aren't they much more animated? And when you guys are firing me up, if you want the games, pretend you want them. Give me some people with some insightful commentary. Give me something. I've gotten so I watch games with its sound off, for crying out loud, man. If you hire me, I'll be in charge of disbanding Yankee organization. Captain Best. Sorry, we got that one. Ron, thank you for sending us Pedro Martinez. Scott's a big Red Sox fan, Ron, so I'm sure you have very fond memories of Pedro going to the Red Sox. What'd they get? A bag of balls for him? Because in 74, they were close. That was a fun. I was a big Gene Mauch fan when I was a kid. He was a guy I always rooted for to get to the World Series because he never got to one. Probably the best manager who never got to a World Series in my mind. Rick would have taken a pass and appoint Kenny. That's a good point. Baseball was my sport with the least knowledge and playing time. There you go. Well, you can appoint somebody in your place as long as I approve it. I'm not sure I'm going to put Scott in charge of dismantling the Yankees because I'm thinking there'll be no Yankee organization. There will be no Yankees. He'll do away with everything. Tear down the stadium. Older than me. That picture. Can never tell by the logo. You look good in your profile picture there, Ron. Well, there you go. 64 in August as well. All the cool kids were born in August, Ron. August 15th, my friend. We're the same age. Look at that. As you say here. This is turning into the Ron and Key show now. We're just comparing our birthday notes. I had a great birthday myself, Ron. My wife is the best, and my stepkids, we all had a lot of fun. My granddaughter. Ron's in Toronto now, but a Blue Jays fan. It kind of lost interest when the team went to Washington. There is talk about Montreal getting a team again. I think it would be a stretch and going to be hard for Major League Baseball to sell that without a stadium and some really strong ownership. Because if you remember, Major League Baseball had to take over running of the team before they left. Enough on Ron's team. No, you're always good. Good to have you with us, Ron. Always. August 19th. That's my grandma's birthday. Oh, see, I think it was Carlos Pavano the Expos got. That's a good trade there. You can't go wrong there. Carl Pavano, one of the great pitchers of all time in wiffle ball. August 19th was my grandmother's birthday. Telling you, all the cool kids. You got married in August. This August, Scott? I missed it. You didn't. Was it at the home or not? And we're only 4 days apart. Small world, buddy. August is a great month. Does your wife miss you as much as mine does, Scott, since we went to the home? Ron, you're going to love the show here on Sunday morning. Touches my heart. Touches my heart this. Oh, I see. That's two different things. Ron, definitely tune into Sunday morning show, 8:30 a.m. The Sunday stream of consciousness where everything's on the table. We talk about everything under the sun, all sports. We get some pop culture in there. Chris is in charge of getting, little inane facts. I don't mean inane in a bad way, by the way. Chris, just for you, just because you guys have been so good today. Happy birthday to Steve Olin. Yeah, that was a sad event there when he and who was it? Bobby Ojeda survived. Himself, Tim Cruz. Was there anybody else besides the three of them? Ojeda survived. Cruz and Olin were both killed in that boat accident. But anyway, to cheer you guys up a little bit, I think I'll play you this little thing again that I played the other day that Mac made for me. And I know Danny loved it the other day, so I'll play it one more time.
Keith Engle, the guy with the sports talk show. On the internet, he's the guy that we all know. If you love your sports, he's the guy for you. He has lots of shows on Roku. Keith Engle with the TGI Sports Talk Show.
Mac, I love you, buddy, but man, don't quit that J job. How many guys love that? I played it for the first time last Sunday, and anyway, Ron, show up on Sunday. We have a lot of fun. Sunday, the cast of characters in this chat carry the show. We have a lot of fun. They carry a lot of my shows. Thank God for them. 29 years. Happy anniversary, belated, Scott, my friend. Your wife must be a saint, as is mine. Yeah, see, so Scott and I were sent off to the home. Thumbs up to you, Ron. I'll to see you on Sunday. Please follow the show. If you follow the show, you'll get notifications. We got to wrap it up here in a couple of minutes, though, guys. We got a lot of great baseball coming starting tomorrow, all day. What a great day. Well, this is a baseball show, but what a great day of sports tomorrow. College football from noon until midnight. We got baseball pretty much from 1 until midnight, 11 anyway. We're going to love it. Max started on the walk in the function room earlier. You guys have been great. Listen, I love these shows. I'm so glad you guys showed up, even though you're all running late. I'm only going to dock you, just a few hours pay. That's all. Nothing major. Appreciate it. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talk's MLB update. We'll be back on Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness. We'll be on at 8. And I share the big football show appearance I do, 8 o'clock on Sundays, to my Facebook page as well. So enjoy it. We'll see you Sunday. Keith Engle, enjoy the baseball tomorrow and the football and everything else. Have fun, guys. Innocuous. Thank you.